Hi, Ange. We spoke to O yesterday. Just how pleasing is it to get him in the door? And what should Celtic fans be expecting from?
Yeah, really pleased to get him. It seems like it's been a long time coming. He's one I think I said earlier in the week, sort of Mark Lawwell and myself, we identified pretty early. And to be honest, I thought he'd be the first one in the building, but, obviously, understandably, his club weren't really keen on letting him go. He's just broken through there, and he was really important to them last year. And then, his form just kept getting better towards the back end of the year, so we knew that would be harder. He was scoring goals, and then he got selected with the Korean national team, and was part of their World Cup squad, even though he didn't play. So all those kind of things made it tricky, and fair to say there was times where I didn't think it was going to happen, but great credit to Michael Nicholson and everyone working with him, and the player himself. They just kept persisting. Even I said I kind of lost a bit of hope that we were going to get him in. So, but they kept persisting, and it's so really happy to get it over the line, and really excited to get him part of the setup here. He's a young guy, but he's really mature and really determined to make an impact, as seen by the way he's tackled his career so far. He's made some real strong choices. He's done his military service. He worked hard to keep his team up last year as a young guy, as a striker. He made the Korean national team squad, and now he's made a decision, where, for all intents and purposes, he could have stayed in Korea probably for another year. That, he wants to try and crack it over here, and really pleased to get him in.
We've seen him already training at Lennoxtown. I mean, in terms of a timescale of seeing him, could he be in the squad and ready to go already, or is it?
We'll see how he goes. He's obviously been training. He's been doing pre-season with his club for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and looking at him, he's in good physical condition, but he hasn't had a game since probably, I think, for the Korean national team in November would have been the last time he played. So, and it's a big week for him. The travel, the whole signing process, physically, emotionally, it's a big week. So we'll just see how he goes. But, I'm keen to get him involved as soon as possible. So we'll see whether that's this weekend or midweek.
You look at the likes of Kyogo, the prime of his career, and just always obviously so young. Is that hopeful that you can follow in Kyogo's footsteps, but also Kyogo's there as someone who he can look up to, and he can help nurture him in that sense, and they both dovetail nice with each other.
Yeah, to a certain extent. I wouldn't say. I don't think Kyogo's in the prime. I think he's still got a bit way to go. I think he's going to get better. Again, you got to remember with Kyogo and a couple of lads from Japan, they only got into senior football relatively late, so they tend to be late developers, and I still think Kyogo's got his best football ahead of him. But for me, the age isn't important. They're just the contrast in styles and the contrast in what they can bring, and we've really tried hard to have a squad of guys that can bring different sort of attributes to the table, depending on what we need, and without it sort of with them fitting into our team structure. So I think they both sort of complement each other well. He'll certainly learn from Kyogo in the way he's adapted to Scottish football, but I'm sure O's keen on sort of carving out his own sort of path here at Celtic.
Ange, I don't think there's been any official communication from the club, but on Moritz Jenz, we've obviously seen that he's left and he's headed elsewhere on loan. Can you just tell us a bit about the thinking behind letting him sort of cutting his loan deal short?
Yeah, with Moritz, I guess it's kind of discussion I have with the player. We brought him in at the beginning of the year where we thought, we needed some extra cover in the centre back area, and that proved, to be correct, because at different times both Carl and Cameron were out for significant game time, so having a guy who's experienced coming in, I thought he helped us. I thought he did well for us, but at the same time, there's always in the back of your mind, well, particularly with somebody like him who's on loan, is he going to get the opportunities to continue to play, and are we likely to commit to him at the end of the year? We've obviously bought, I was keen to bring Yuki Kobayashi in as a left-sided centre-back, and that came to fruition. So then it became a discussion about what's the best for sort of Moritz and in his position. And, after discussing it with him, I thought his best sort of opportunity to continue his career is, in the trajectory it has, was to see if there was any opportunities elsewhere, and he's found one, which is great for him. I think he developed well for us this year. You know, you got to remember when he came across from France, he hadn't played a lot in the second half of the year, and you know, he's played, you know, got significant game time in the first 6 months here, including Champions League, which he played, I think, just about every game. So again, you know, I think he's enjoyed his time here. I think he's developed in the right way. He's contributed to us in the first 6 months, but you know, I think for both parties it was a good time to sort of look for different opportunities.
You said after the game last weekend that Yorgos Giakoumakis maybe wasn't in the right frame of mind to be involved. Has there been any change in that situation? Do you expect that to be the same for this weekend's game as well?
Yeah, it's not about right frame of mind. I just said there's a lot going on in the background, which, you know, you kind of don't know how players will react to that. You know, there's still a fair bit of speculation around him, and obviously until something gets resolved either way, then, you know, from my perspective, it's about sort of seeing how he's training and sort of, you know, how he's feeling about things. So again, we'll assess it for the weekend. As I said, I guess with the window being open and, you know, as I said, a fair bit of speculation around him. We'll kind of assess that as we go along.
Hi, Ange. Just wanted to ask you about, obviously, when you've recruited players and brought them in, one of the striking things is how quickly they've tended to settle into the squad. What do you think is the key to that? Because often, you know, it can take players quite a lot of time to do that, but it's been quite quick for most of the guys you've brought in.
Yeah, I think most of that probably goes back to, you know, the kind of players and people we identify. So I just think that's a real key component in terms of, you know, when you're talking about, you know, recruiting and bringing people into your organisation, is that, you know, we've got a pretty clear methodology around the way we play and around our culture. So you kind of identify guys who you can picture in here to start with, so that, you know, you're not just, you know, I've said before, you're not just selecting, you know, good players. It's about specific types, and I think we've been really good about, you know, both, you know, the player and the person in identifying guys who will fit in here, and I think that's helped because the players come in and they feel comfortable because, you know, what we're asking them to do is stuff that we've already seen they can do, and we just kind of add to that. And in terms, you know, the kind of people they are, you know, obviously I have discussions with them, and I think, you know, they're going to be a good fit for the group. So again, it's not an exact science, but I think that helps. It just minimises that risk factor that you're going to bring in somebody who, A, is not going to fit into your style of play, even though they may be a very good footballer, or because of their personality or kind of, you know, their character might not be a good fit for our dressing room. Again, not without it being, you know, a negative around them. So I think that's where, you know, I'll put a lot of stock into. For us, we have a real sort of clear template as to what we want, and I think that helps minimise, you know, the risk we take in terms of bringing people in.
And how are you feeling ahead of Sunday? You'll face a Dundee United side at Tannadice. That'll be a lot different, I'm sure, from that 9-0 victory that you had up there. Obviously, look at the last time you guys played, you pushed you all hard to get that victory over the line, didn't they, at Celtic Park? But how are you feeling ahead of it, and how pleased are you that you go in on the back of 4 clean sheets in the bounce as well?
Yeah, look, I think, you know, it doesn't really change for us. I know you say we don't expect it, but, you know, even that 9-0 game, I think we only scored our first goal in the 40th minute or something, if I remember correctly. So we had to work hard on that day too. You know, I think people look at the end result and think it was some, you know, it was a bit cruisy for us. But, you know, we had to work hard in that game to get our dominance and our ascendancy, and it'll be no different this week, and we've done that in every game, is to, you know, we go out there and we try and sort of, you know, put our authority on the game, play our football, put the opposition under pressure, and home and away. And, you know, sometimes that doesn't yield results like that one, but it doesn't mean we're any less dominant in other games. It's just in that game, you know, we scored a lot of goals. But, you know, fair to say, yeah, Dundee United, you know, under Liam have improved since then in terms of just, you know, their understanding of the football they want to play, and they look a lot more settled as a side. I think, you know, since the break, they've come back and have been really consistent in both their form and their results. So, you know, for us, we know it's a challenge, but at the same time, as I said, we've been pretty good as well, and we just want to continue that.
I just is it a team news update on Anthony Ralston? Is he coming along okay after?
Yeah, he's coming along, but he's still the only one that's sort of in rehab, training separately from the group. But, you know, we're kind of fairly confident he'll be able to join in at, over the next week or so. Everyone else is good. Greg Taylor's back, had a full week of training. Cameron Carter-Vickers is back. He's had a full week of training. Obviously, we've got training tomorrow, but both those guys are all good to go. So, it's really only Tony now that's sort of not available for this weekend's game.
And just going back to the transfer stuff, is that you done your business incoming wise now with O coming in?
Yeah, look, I could say yes, but then it would be boring for the next few days for all of us. So I'll just say we'll stay agile and see what happens, and I can get asked these questions again on the weekend.
After the signing of O, he had said that the players' perseverance played a big role in getting that deal over the line. Is that something that you've a style of management that you've had throughout your career, where you wouldn't go and try to convince a player that they need to sign for a club? Yeah, look,
it's not about sort of convincing. It's just that I like to have conversations with the players, because, as I said, I've always said that you're not signing a player, you're signing a person, and I like to have those kind of discussions to get an understanding of what their motivations are, what their goals, their ambitions are, the kind of personalities they have, and I'd like to think I'm pretty intuitive in terms of assessing that pretty quickly. And I've had many conversations with players and walked away thinking, I don't think he's going to be the right fit for us. And we haven't done the deal, but with I kind of knew straight after I got off the call with him that he was exactly the right type for us, and his own sort of, like I said, determination to get the deal done shows you that for him, it wasn't about driving the best deal for himself, or I'm not sure his agent would have been too happy with him, but, he just wanted to come to Celtic. Doesn't matter what the deal was, he just wanted to come and play for us. And, that as a manager, that excites you, because that's the kind of, players you want in the building, and the kind of people you want in the building. And, that's not to say that others don't say that, but, sometimes you pick up things that they say that you think, well, I'm not really entirely convinced that, that person will fit into our dressing room or really wants to be with us, or he's just sort of exploring his options with I knew straight away that, he wanted to come to us, and, I thought that made him a great fit.
What attributes has he got that's different from the strikers that you have at the club at the moment?
Look, I think he's still a young guy. He's only 21, but already you see in his game he's got a real presence about him in terms of his physicality. He's a big lad, but he moves well. He loves to get involved in all aspects of the game. People know I love my strikers who work hard defensively, and he certainly does that. But he also adds a real, like I said, physical presence in that front third in terms of been able to link up, and a real presence in the penalty box, both aerially and on the ground. And just really excited about his potential. We do have to remember he's only 21, and he's still relatively inexperienced. But at the same time, I just think he, looking at what he's already done in his career and the way he's gone about it, I reckon he'll be a quick learner, and I think he can contribute straight away for us.
I know you talked about not bringing any more players into the club, but is there a chance that some fringe players could be leaving before the end of the transfer window?
Yeah, look, we're still sort of, like I said, there's still a few days in the window to go, and there's still some potential movement. Like I said, more likely out than in. And again, but that'll be sort of that'll sort of all transpire over the next few days. With all these things, it's about making sure that the player is sort of, gets what he wants, that the club is, we're satisfied as a club, that, the club that they want to go to is satisfied. It needs, all three parties to kind of come to an agreement. And if that happens, then, as we've seen with Josip and now Moritz, we'll get the deals done. But, there's nothing definite at the moment. And as I've always said, it's not about us or me pushing players out or giving people ultimatums. It's about, as I said, players are in charge of their careers, assessing what the best options are for them. And if there's a parity in everyone's thoughts around that, then, things happen. But we've still got a few days to go, so we'll see.
Boston Lowell was a player that played when his debut for Celtic last week. Is he a player that could be involved more for the first team this season?
Well, depending on him, he's been training with us for quite a while. Him and Rocco Vada, but unfortunately Rocco got a bit of an injury, so he's out for a little while. But both of them be training with us, and they've developed well with us, and that is what earns them the opportunity. But he's still got to work hard. He's still got to, we've still got some really strong centre halves in the building that he's got to get past. But we want to give him every opportunity to do that. He's still playing with the B team, which I think is important, particularly, these midweek games. They had a game against Leicester during the week. I think they got Blackburn during the week this week, which are really, good games for him to show that, he needs to really dominate those games. And, with Darren and Steve there, they give me the feedback. And if he dominates at that level, then again, he'll get an opportunity with us. But, nothing is given, nothing's taken for granted. He's the same as every other player. He's got to keep working at it. But he's got himself into a good space at the moment, and he needs to just keep pushing on.